Conoscere and sapere. Two Italian verbs with different uses but one single meaning in English. To know. Are these verbs regular or irregular? When do you use conoscere and when do you use sapere? In this episode we cover the conjugation and uses of these two verbs. Download this episode guide at italianmatters.com/2 and also take the quiz, which you can find at the same link. Ciao e bentornati! My name is Margherita, the host of Italian Grammar Made Easy podcast and creator of Italian Matters. Today we look at these two verbs, conoscere and sapere. The translation in English is just one, to know. In Italian, instead, they have different uses with the meaning of to know. And you need to learn when to use one or the other. First, let's start with the conjugation of the present indicative. Conoscere is a regular verb, while sapere is irregular. I would say that sapere is a little bit more tricky in terms of conjugation and use compared to conoscere. The conjugation of conoscere is io conosco, tu conosci, lui, lei conosce, noi conosciamo, voi conoscete, loro conoscono. Easy, right? Sapere instead is irregular, and the conjugation in the present tense indicative is io so, tu sai, lui, lei sa, noi sappiamo, voi sapete, loro sanno. Ok, va bene, quindi questa è la coniugazione dei verbi conoscere e sapere. Now to the uses and keep listening for a short quiz at the end of the episode. Let's start with conoscere. Conoscere is used when you know or when you are familiar with a person, a place or a thing. For example, conosco la mamma di Marta. I know Marta's mom. So what I mean here is that I am familiar with Marta's mom. I know her, and so I must use conoscere. Another example is conosco quel ristorante. I know that restaurant. I'm familiar with that restaurant. I know that restaurant. And so I use conoscere. And this is number 1 of 3 uses. Numero 2. Second case when you have to use conoscere. When you meet somebody for the first time. Per esempio, ieri ho conosciuto tuo fratello. Yesterday I met your brother. And here it's implied that I met your brother for the first time yesterday. Ho conosciuto tuo fratello. The third use is with the meaning to be famous. So, for example, if I say, questo attore è conosciuto in tutto il mondo. This actor is known all over the world. So I'm using conoscere with the meaning to be famous. Okay, so we saw the 3 main cases when you have to use conoscere. 1. When you know or when you're familiar with a person, place or thing. 2. When you meet somebody for the first time. 3. With the meaning to be famous. Sapere has 5 specific uses. Numero 1. When you know a fact. For example, so che sabato Elisa e Carlo si sposano. I know that on Saturday Elisa and Carlo are getting married. This is a fact that I know, so I must use sapere. Numero 2. Second case when you have to use sapere. To know how to do something. For example, so suonare il pianoforte. I know how to play the piano. I know how to do this. I know how to do something, so I use sapere. Third case, when you have to use sapere. This is similar to number 2, numero 2, when you know a language. So parlare italiano. I know how to speak Italian. So here, when you know how to speak a language, you use sapere. Fourth case, numero 4, is to ask the time. Sai che ora è? Do you know what time it is? And then the last case, situation, when you have to use sapere, is when it is used with a passato prossimo or present perfect, and it takes the meaning of found out. For example, abbiamo saputo che Luca è nato a mezzanotte. We found out that Luca was born at midnight. So here I'm using sapere, abbiamo saputo, with the meaning of finding out. We found out that Luca was born at midnight. Note that these rules also apply to negative sentences. For example, if you don't know how to do something, you would use sapere. Non so suonare la chitarra. If you remember, we said that sapere is used to talk about when you know how to do something, right? I said before, so suonare il pianoforte. But also when you don't know how to do something, you follow the same rule, use sapere. Non so suonare la chitarra. Ok, let's pause here. Pausa. Abbiamo visto molte regole, giusto? Quindi facciamo un riassunto. Let's recap. Conoscere is used when 1. You know or you're familiar with a person, place, or thing. 2. When you meet somebody for the first time. 3. With the meaning to be famous. Sapere is used 1. When you know a fact. 2. When you know how to do something. 3. When you know a language. 4. To ask the time. And 5. With the present perfect or passato prossimo with the meaning of found out. Bene, ottimo. Siamo arrivati al quiz. Frase numero 1. Marta, blank. A che ora apre il supermercato? So in English it would be Marta. Do you know at what time the supermarket opens? So would you say, Marta, sai a che ora apre? Or would you say, Marta, conosci a che ora apre? Do you use sapere or conoscere, and why? Don't just guess. Try to use logic according to my explanation. We are asking the time here. Marta, blank. A che ora? Marta, do you know at what time? Since I'm asking the time, as we have seen, I have to use sapere. When I'm asking the time, I use sapere. So the correct version here would be Marta, sai a che ora apre il supermercato? Next sentence. Loro, blank, bene, Roma. They know well, Rome. Would you say loro sanno bene Roma or loro conoscono bene Roma? Do you use sapere or conoscere? Think about the meaning of the sentence. They know well Rome. We are saying here that they know they are familiar with the place. So the rule that we have seen was that if I know or am familiar with a person, a place, or a thing, I use conoscere. And so the correct version here is loro conoscono bene Roma. They know Roma well. They are familiar, they know a place, and that place is Rome, Roma. Now try the auto-graded quiz at italianmatters.com. /to. And also, if you are still uncertain about when to use conoscere and sapere, download the free guide at the same link. You can print that out, put it in your folder, and refer back to it when you are uncertain about whether to use conoscere or sapere. Ecco qui, questo è tutto per questo episodio. Grazie di essere stato o stata qui con me. Ci vediamo giovedì prossimo, ancora qui, stesso giorno, stessa ora, con un'altra lezione di grammatica italiana. Ciao amici, ciao ciao!